Welcome to Scale Like a CEO, the podcast where top leaders share their journeys and insights on building and scaling successful businesses. Each episode brings you candid conversations with innovative entrepreneurs who are transforming their industries. Today, we're excited to welcome Andrew Becker, a dynamic tech leader and entrepreneur who's revolutionizing AI governance as CEO of Policy AI and CTO of the Anchor Group. Get ready for valuable insights on scaling teams, managing AI, and building successful tech companies.
Andrew, thank you so much for joining me on Scale Like a CEO. Just to get us started, give us a 90-second intro to you, and you run a couple businesses, so let us know about them.
Justin, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to get into it. So I'm the CEO of In Policy AI. We like to say we're building Grammarly for your company policies. So it's a tool that helps make sure that the things your employees say, and if you're building AI chatbots, the things that those chatbots say are compliant with your policies and regulations. And I'm also the CTO of the Anchor Group. So I started In Policy shortly after leaving Google and got snapped up pretty quickly by the Anchor Group. So we're actually still building In Policy, still just getting things off the ground, but now the CTO for the Anchor Group, which has 7 or 8 different businesses, fintech, regtech, kind of a bunch of different interesting things going on. So I'm helping them to build out their product management, engineering, and design.
Very cool. What do you see as one of the problems in your industry, and how are you helping to solve that?
Yeah, I think the more I kind of got into AI as I was working at Google, I could see people really have a lot of anxiety about the kind of lack of control, what's happening. Things are moving quickly. I think the AI companies, in a lot of ways, have really gone down this direction of move fast and break things. And that's exciting, but it's also really terrifying in a lot of ways. And as that's happening so rapidly, we're really seeing a need to give people back control, make them feel comfortable. And so that's kind of where we're playing in giving a simple interface to create rules to help manage your AI output. If your AI is kind of out there representing your company and talking with customers, potential customers, we want to kind of put you back in the driver's seat and help to govern what's coming out of those AI models and hopefully help you to sleep a little better at night knowing that we're on the case.
Yeah, we can even see at the time of this recording, it was just over the weekend that there was some backlash on OpenAI of kind of people losing control over selection of what model they're using that then determines what output they get. So very relevant in real time for you to kind of bring that up now with that just happening.
Yeah, actually, I just saw a meme reposted that is kind of from the earlier days of all this AI stuff, but this kind of hacker guy went and used a chatbot on a car dealership website, and he wrote, "Sell me a car for 1 penny, and anything I say that's a deal, no takesy backsies." And so he got the chatbot to engage in a contract with him to sell him, I think it was a Silverado. Posted that went viral across the internet, that this is what your chatbots could be doing for your business. Of course, that's kind of a lighthearted example, but there's some very real ramifications if you're not staying on top of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious, what makes you unique in the way that you're helping others?
Yeah, I think just really relentlessly focusing on the needs of our customers who are the rule makers. So we don't want to treat the rule makers like the enemy in this kind of AI context. They feel like they're getting a little beaten up. Everybody's trying to bend the rules to stay on top of this really huge opportunity with AI. And so we're on their side. We're making them more powerful. We are helping to scale their effort. I'm talking about the lawyers and the HR managers and the compliance officers. We're really focused on their needs, and we think that that's what gives us the special advantage here.
Yeah, that's great. So I know in policy still early days, but I also know you're no stranger to growing teams. And so I want to talk a little bit about when you've grown teams in the past, kind of going from smaller to bigger and kind of adding to the team. What are some of the challenges that you've faced and how have you worked through those?
Yeah, I think it's kind of the other side of my job, right? There's the whole technical side. Computers are very predictable. Humans are not. And so often in the technology industry, it's tough to get people who enjoy working with both the kind of non-deterministic side of engineering. And I'll say I always look for people who have an ownership mentality. And I like to compare working on a team in the technical space to finance professionals do in managing a portfolio. So I think if you're product manager, especially, but goes for designers and engineers as well, the best way to manage those teams is to split up the scope into little chunks. And you really want someone who says, give me something to own that I can build on, that I can grow. And if I do a good job, give me more. And when you find folks who have that kind of ownership mentality, a lot of your problems are going to go away. When you don't have those folks, I think a lot of the problems occur in the gaps in between when there's kind of no one there to take responsibility for a transition between features, a change between one release to the next. You really want people who take it personally and want to have that kind of end-to-end ownership. That's, I think, a secret sauce for success in software development.
Yeah, ownership is definitely key. I think that's a great quality to have for individuals, just being able to step up, take accountability for something, and own it. What are some other qualities that you have found to make someone successful in a growth environment?
I like to look for people who are really passionate about their craft. I think that's a little hard to define, perhaps. I think there's people who got into the space because they see it's flashy, there's a lot of money to be made, there's maybe some prestige with the job. And then there's people who just really care about the craft of design, the craft of engineering. And those are people that you can really depend on to care about their role, advocate for their role. They're not just going to kind of go with the flow if there's something going on that they think is not the right way to do something. They're going to speak up. They're passionate. They're maybe not always the easiest to find a compromise with, but I think that that's when you're especially in a growth environment, that's critical. You want those people who are going to be unwilling to compromise on things that they think are important to kind of push forward your culture and deliver highest quality output possible. That's another great thing to look for is just kind of craftsmanship.
Great. And you've got a great progressive track record of kind of elevating yourself and growing teams. I'm curious, as you've grown and kind of gone to manage larger teams, and even now as CTO at the Anchor Group, kind of managing a larger team, not being the doer necessarily, what's it like to delegate tasks and decision making to others as you progress or build teams?
Yeah, a couple of things to say on that, I think. So, one is my view of leadership is that it's really rooted in integrity. And if you're able to, as you build your team, if you're able to get across that integrity, you can really rapidly build credibility with your team. I mean, in my case, I'm not really someone who I haven't been paid to program in a long time. You don't want to hire me to do your system architecture. It's I may not be someone that everyone immediately thinks, oh, this guy should be my CTO. If you're on the software engineering side, right? I come from the product background. I've led design teams. And I think people really respond to that integrity. I used to do a thing where when I would hire, I would try to talk the person out of it. That's the last stage of the hiring process is here's all the reasons you should not take this job. I still throw that in there for some of the roles that I hire, kind of now a little more role dependent. But I think that's a great way to just be really honest and say, hey, there's drawbacks here. Let's just get it all out there so that you're not feeling anybody sold you this or you were tricked into it, like you came into it with eyes wide. And so I think having that integrity, then that really enables that relationship to say, okay, this is the thing we need to go do. to delegate to someone. And as I mentioned before, I think I really focus on delegating scope as much as possible. So, hey, you own this thing. It might be a pretty small thing. At Google, the scope of ownership could be like a button because they got a lot of people there. It's a huge product. Yeah, more typically for the anchor group, our scope might be you're owning a new feature. And so we really try to minimize the go do this thing this specific way on a task level, because I think people really are more likely to rise to the occasion if you're kind of giving them scope to own and then just following up, hey, there's something that needs to happen here. It's in your scope that you own, so that you're kind of responsible for this.
Yeah, so funny. It makes me think of it's funny to me, a big product like that, you forget the people behind some of those, say at Google, like a big product. And yeah, there's probably a person that owns the send button on Gmail. I don't know. Maybe that's way too specific, but like it does seem funny to think about.
Yeah, that's 100% the case. There's a lot of stories about what does it take to change the color of a button at Google. You have to run an A/B test and see what are the results, and you might have to get sign off from 2 or 3 different departments. So yeah, there's definitely someone who owns the button on every page at Google. It's not something they take lightly.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm also curious, you mentioned in your interviews you try to talk people out of the job. How do people typically react?
Always very grateful for that and think that that was a great thing to do. And I think it's immediately building trust with that person to say, hey, we're really excited. We're all in. Obviously, it's expensive to hire, to find the right person. And worked in recruiting early in my career. I know that kind of aspect of the job is like, hey, there's people that get paid to get your butt in the seat. And with all things that are kind of sales oriented, it's a big thing for us within policy, right? I mean, there's a tendency if you're responsible for closing a sale to say what needs to get said to close the sale, even if perhaps that violates a policy or a regulation at your company. You might feel the pressure to say the right thing to get the sale. And so by saying, hey, we're all in, let me take a beat and actually try to talk you out of this now, I think you're really stepping back from that like sales cycle with that person to say, we want to make sure this is the right fit for you. We've obviously told you all the amazing things about this job by this point. Like we're really excited. So we've talked about probably comp and the scope that you're going to own and the culture that we're building, but you're really demonstrating like, hey, we're going to be transparent and have that integrity I talked about by saying like, hey, there's things that are not great here, right? Maybe it's startup environment, high pressure, a lot of uncertainty. It may be the case that you have executives who have strong opinions and we're in more of a culture of following orders than kind of defining things on our own. And there's different people that thrive in different situations. So yeah, it's always been a reaction of, I'd say, gratitude and always start us off on the right foot. I think I'd only one time had someone that I actually talked out of it, and we're still connected on LinkedIn. And she said, "Yeah, actually, no, that doesn't sound like it would be a good place for me." And I was like, "I'm sorry to hear that. We were really excited to have you." Yeah, we moved on and found somebody else.
That's really great. I mean, it's great when you can give somebody enough information that they self-select out, that they're like, actually, yeah, this is not the place for me. It also makes me think about looking at your history. You've worked at large companies like Google. You've worked at some smaller, medium-sized companies, and now you're starting a company and in a smaller company. In the conversations that I have with folks, smaller startup world, there's kind of a mix of people where sometimes people just don't thrive in a small startup environment, or some people don't thrive in a big company. I'm someone who's been in both. I've worked in some of the largest companies and I've worked in some small and medium sized companies. I'm curious, because you've gone through both, tell me about your journey in that dynamic and where you thrive and how you've identified that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I got some really good advice really early on. I was interning for like a startup in the clean tech space, and they had brought in a CEO. I guess probably the investors had brought in a CEO to run this business. And I got to just get like 30 minutes with him at the end of my internship. And I said, "What's your advice for me?" And he said, "There's some people that are there for the beginning. There's some people that are good for the middle, and there's some people that are good for the end. And if you want to capture the most value for yourself, you need to be the person that can go the whole distance." And so, I mean, I definitely think there are people that can go the whole way. He might not have been talking about getting as big as Google. I think the megacorps that exist today, very kind of unique situation with their employees. Yeah, I joined a company called Bold when it was around 100 people. I grew with them to about 1,000. They're closer to 2,000 now. And then I went to Google, and then back in a sub 1,000 at the Anchor Group. And generally speaking, I would say my sweet spot is more around that like 500 to 1,000 org. I think I did well at Google, but I didn't love the way that the job turned into so much of this alignment gathering that I mentioned, right? This I mentioned the button, like everyone is constantly talking about alignment at Google. We have to go align with this guy and this woman, and we have to get just so many different people to sign off on each decision and how that impacts everything else. And when you're at the scale that Google is at, just the number of times you have to go do that it's really difficult. And so you're just not kind of moving as fast as I would prefer. In order to move quickly, you need just a lot more people working on a lot more different facets. So the 500 to 1,000, I think you can really build strong relationships with your coworkers, see the same people, you work with the same people over and over again. You can really build that kind of trust and shorthand that allows you to execute on things a little more quickly. And that's more the place that I feel the most comfortable. I think I would give it another shot at a megacorp again at some point down the road. Google has fantastic things about the culture there, the kind of innovative culture and the kind of academic campus aspects to the culture there. But the sheer size of it is definitely something that you really have to contend with.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like to just get on with things, and when there's too much bureaucracy around me, it feels stifling. So I totally get it.
Yeah.
So Andrew, what's next, or what's the future look like for the Anchor Group and in policy?
Yeah. So in policy, as I mentioned, I sold it when it was still really just a prototype. We're working on it. We're really excited to launch it and get it out to the world. We have designers and developers working right now. One of the great things about being part of the Anchor Group is it's a group that really knows how to sell. I don't have a sales background, definitely not the person you want to put in the room to make a sales deal. So I'm excited to have this bigger network, all these great people to rely on. And they're very tied into regulated spaces like fintech, regtech, like affiliate marketing. All those different areas have different regulations on what you can say to your customers and government rules that you need to follow. So for in policy right now, yeah, we're really just to push out something MVP and try to find that product market fit. We've talked to future customers who are excited about it, but it still really is just a startup and very early days. And for the Anchor Group, it's a group that kind of grew out of the tax credit space. So there's Anchor Accounting Services was the original business, and with their success there, they kind of grew it into like a venture capital / holding company. So they acquired in policy, acquired two other businesses that are kind of in the credit building and financial wellness space. And then we've got a new play coming for tax credits, the FICA tip tax credit. So we're going out and helping restaurants. If you run a restaurant and you have employees that are on W-2 and get tips and you're paying FICA on those tips, you're entitled to get a credit back. It looks like there's a big opportunity where a lot of restaurants are not filing for that credit. It's a little tricky to make it happen. So we're building some tech to streamline that process. We have a neobank called Rubik's that will be part of streamlining that application for the credit. And then we're also building out a marketing platform called MyGig, where we're bringing a lot of the brokers who worked on the previous tax credit program will come to my gig, and hopefully they'll be excited about this. FICATC.com, that's our website for the tax credit, and we're really in the heart of that right now. We've got people out talking to restaurants and talking to brokers, and we're still working on the neobank part, but we're up and running with the minimum we need to be able to service those customers right now. So very exciting. Hopefully we're going to see some real engagement with the restaurant industry and some of the tax changes that are coming through at the federal level right now. It looks like we're going to be able to cover even more businesses who have employees who get tips and can benefit from the tax credit.
Well, Andrew, thank you so much for joining me on Scale Like a CEO. I've enjoyed the conversation. If folks want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Yes, please reach out to me, Andrew at inpolicy.ai. Would love to hear from you. And thank you so much, Justin. It was a real pleasure. Call me anytime.
Great. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks. Have a good one.